Hello, how you doing? Corky Alexander. Good to have you today on Beginning Guitar. And today I'm going to talk about droning chords, or chords that have a little air to them. Primarily come out of a singer-songwriter world. And we're going to do it in a few keys. So the first thing, in the 60s, early 60s, country music utilized a lot of standard chords on the acoustic guitar and also on the electric, of course, bar chords and positions. And same on the electric. Mostly the classical guitar players were the ones who were developing complex chords for guitar, and most of the pop players didn't utilize them. British Invasion, was just, it was bar chords, it was standard chords, and in country music it was very standard chords. Okay, rarely ever play a diminished on a guitar, or say a minor seventh once in a great while. The Beatles came along. There was a lot of influence of Indian music in the world because of Britain's relationship to India, and this coincided with the counterculture movement, where young people were very interested in what Eastern religions were saying. This was also a reaction to the church's seeming irrelevance. And so the young people in America were turning to other religions besides Christianity, Judaism. And so in California, when the singer-songwriter era kind of blossomed, the early leaders in the singer-songwriter movement of the 60s, like David Crosby, Stephen Stills, Graham Nash, James Taylor, and many of these other people, singer-songwriters, the Mamas and the Papas, and all that Laurel Canyon people, they were coming from a world where mostly standard guitar chords were used. I mean, you think of the Hollies, where Graham Nash came from, doing very standard pop 45s, much like the Beatles, and they were part of the British Invasion. During this time at Laurel Canyon in the 60s, there were a lot of action on Sunset Strip, a lot of new artists coming to play, and one of the artists that really revolutionized acoustic guitar playing was Joni Mitchell. Now, I was privileged to see her in '73 in Atlanta, Georgia with Yes, and Joni Mitchell was playing and using alternate tunings that people like Stephen Stills were not familiar with, and even Eric Clapton showed up in Laurel Canyon, California, in the LA area to see and to watch Joni Mitchell play these chords, a lot of times with an alternate tuning, like she was in the key of D. It was not strange at all. I'm matching my low E to a D to use a drop D tuning. You see, it gives a drum sound there. The folk movement, of course, this was going on. Joni Mitchell was influenced in the folk movement, Greenwich Village, area, and so was Richie Havens. And Richie Havens is a man that's known for alternate tunings. If you watch him on Woodstock, he's chording these bars with his thumb way over and everything. So there are different tunings. There's, a drop D tuning. You see how I'm doing fine tuning right there? When you're tuning, rather than just doing the standard, this kind of tuning, matching these notes, like you do, you can go up here, if you got one note in tune, and hit a harmonic on the 5th fret, and then the next string on the 7th. And you match those. That's a fine tuning. Okay. When you get to B, you're going to have to hit this. Low E on the 7th fret, and then you go from the B, and you match that until the wave flattens out. Anyway, back in standard tune again. Now, if we were in the key of A, and one thing you want to do if you're accompanying yourself on acoustic guitar and singing, because you don't have a band there, you want to try to give a lot of variety, much variety as possible. So, you could play standard chords like A, and B minor, C sharp minor, B minor, A, and standard, what Bob Dylan would have been playing on Shall Be Released. Something similar. Now, the way Joni Mitchell would do is, in order to have these airy chords, gives a droning effect or kind of an Eastern sound, you'd always want to have as many strings open as possible. So sometimes, this one has a lot, but if I did a B minor like this, you hear that? That's a B minor bar with the finger bar off, and I'm letting the high E string and the top 2 strings be open. And then they're droning constantly. My E string, my A string, and my high E continue to be open. And in A also, if you go up here to your bar chord on A, which is the 5th fret, you're playing an E form bar chord. Sometimes to get this airy feel, and there are names for these chords, but I just don't keep those numbers in my mind. You could drop the bottom out of it by lifting your finger and doing this. Still an A, it's a form of A, but it's got that airy feeling to it. You want to drop the top out of it too, you can. Still A. Look at that. That's the D string on the 7th fret. That's the G string on the 6th fret. Everything else open. And you'll find scales if you hunt for them. Listen to that. I'm still in the same 2 strings, the D and the G. And then, of course, there's an A, like this, a form of an A. I don't know what you call it. And that was very much a David Crosby chord. David Crosby would drum the strings. Very David Crosby. We're in the key of A still. We're playing like a form. Part of it's like a F major 7th, F minor 7th, no, F sharp minor 7th, but it's actually a form of A. And I think he'd used these chords in Traction in the Rain on his, I can't even remember my name album, okay? David Crosby. Of course, he worshiped Joni Mitchell, so he was trying to find these open chords with these droning notes. So that's a key of A, and that's some ideas. There's more than that, dude. Sky's the limit. NASA even taught us that the sky is not even the limit. Okay. Now let's see if we're in B, for example. Here's a B bar chord on the 7th fret, E form, an E form behind a full bar. If you drop the bottom out of that, I use this one in Wichita Lineman when I perform it in restaurants, you know. And that's an A with the bottom dropped out of it. We're just playing the top part of that. Again, I don't know what these chords are called. I learned them by watching people play, and I learned them by trial and error. But that's an idea in B. C is not usually, normally, I mean, you could do variations on a C chord. Two Hands by Love Song. And sometimes, you know, if it's appropriate, you could even substitute a C major 7th. I hope you got a chord book by now. For where you would put a C, you know, or a major 7th G. And these kind of chord substitutions are what really add variety, you know, to your song, especially if you're accompanying one vocal. Okay, so we're in G. Let's see. No, we were in E. Then we're at A, B. We just did C. Okay, and now we're in D. And D is really exciting for these airy chords. It's very popular to tune down to a drop D. Some artists keep drop D all the time, but I can't do that because I get confused on my scale. One of my albums actually got one wrong note. There's more than one wrong note on my albums, but one because I forgot to tune out a drop D on my classical, and I was playing lead, and I got this in there. But anyway, and in here you can air the G. It's the bottom half of a G bar chord. And so I can drum these top strings. And Sweet Judy Blue Eyes by Crosby, Stills and Nash, Singer-Songwriter. See, they're using that right there, that line. And I feel like I've been here before. Okay, in D, that's the bottom half of an A form D bar chord. With that droning. Here's an E minor. With the top 3 strings droning. So that's D. You can do so much with D because, as I recall, I think a dulcimer's tuned to the key of D. And dulcimer effects are what we're doing here. And Joni Mitchell, dulcimer's prominent in her records too. Okay, D, E. Now E is great fun. If you recall, Bread, Baby I'm Gonna Want You, Guitar Man, stuff like that. David Gates used a lot of open, airy, droning chords. Here's the E, and also Sweet Melissa by the Allman Brothers Band. And what that is an E, and then I'm going up here and grabbing an F sharp minor, but I'm dropping the top and the bottom out of it. Open E, open B, open E, right there. Slide it up 2 frets, same formation, then down. And you can do scales with this too. A. Joni Mitchell used in Big Yellow Taxi. Phil Keaggy and using an open top and the bottom out of an A form bar for E. Sliding around that same form right there, and that's Rise Up, O Men of God by Phil Keaggy, Little Wing by Derek Dominoes. So those are some open, airy chords. I could do G, could do F, and not, but that's all for right now. Thank you. I'm a little long-winded here.